Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is going to be a lecture for December 14th, 2020. This is an introductory class for units 98 to 103 from Oxford Practice Grammar. Now, this discussion about pronouns is an introductory lecture regarding what pronouns are, the definition of pronouns. We are also going to discuss the types of pronouns in this lecture. This lecture is important in order to understand the units 98 to 103 that we are going to discuss in our classes this week. So first we are going to discuss the definition and function of the pronouns. Let's define a pronoun. Any of a small set of words in a language that are used as substitutes for nouns or noun phrases and whose referents are named or understood in the context. In simple words, a pronoun replaces a noun. As you can see through the name pro means something that comes before it. So, a pronoun always occupies the place of a noun. Basically, a pronoun saves us the effort of repeating the same noun. Just imagine that you are reading a book, and an example that has been given here at the bottom of the slide. Sarah has always loved fashion. She announced that she wants to go to fashion school. Now let's substitute she with Sarah. Sarah has always loved fashion. Sarah announced that Sarah wants to go to fashion school. Now the repetition of the name Sarah is quite taxing for the user and also for the reader. It makes the writing boring, and also it is something that has to be avoided. So, in order to avoid it, we are substituting it with an appropriate pronoun. So let's pay attention to this writing in white. I'm reading from here. A pronoun is a word that is used instead of a noun or noun phrase. Pronouns refer to either a noun that has already been mentioned or to a noun that does not need to be named specifically. So a pronoun is basically used to refer to the same person that we already have talked about, in this example Sarah. And sometimes further you will learn when we will discuss the types of pronouns that when it is already understood in a context who the doer of the action is or who the noun is or what the noun is, then we use a pronoun. So sometimes you use a pronoun when you are already aware of a noun in a situation, and sometimes you use a pronoun when the noun is already understood, although even if it is not mentioned in that piece of writing. So before discussing the types of pronouns, first let's talk about what an antecedent is. The concept regarding the antecedent is very necessary to understand. It is very important to understand because you will not be able to then further comprehend if we are going to discuss the types of pronouns. So pronouns are versatile. When I say versatile, when it is mentioned here versatile, it means that there are different kinds of pronouns and they show a different behavior. The pronoun it can refer to just about anything: a bike, a tree, a movie, a feeling. Now, as we all know, that when someone would ask me or someone would ask you what a noun is, then I would simply say anything that has a name to it is a noun. Now, when I say a name, it does not always mean that I am talking about the proper names. I'm talking about everything that has been given a name. from a table to a chair to a pen to a pencil to a tree to water. Everything, every feeling, every phenomenon that is concrete or abstract, something that can be seen or something that cannot be seen. All of those are nouns. So the pronoun it can refer to just about anything. Just the way nouns can refer to anything. So in the same way, pronouns can refer to anything. A bike, a tree, a movie, a feeling. That's why you need an antecedent. Now let's pay attention to the definition that starts from here. An antecedent is a noun or noun phrase that you mention at the beginning of a sentence or story and later replace it with a pronoun. In the examples below, the antecedent is in italics and underlined, and the pronoun that replaces it is bolded. Now, put in simple words, an antecedent is the first noun. An antecedent is the first noun that has a reference later. An antecedent is the first noun that has a reference later in the shape of the pronoun. So let me first read this sentence for you. My family drives me nuts, but I love them. So this family is the first noun mentioned here, and this is the reference to it, them. So them is referring to family, so family is antecedent here. Antecedent उर्दू में अगर मैं सही तरीके से बताऊं तो पहले आने वाला, तो यहाँ सबसे पहला आने वाला नाउन फैमिली है। अब सबसे पहले आने वाले नाउन को मैं क्यों कह रही हूँ, क्योंकि रेफरेंस इसी को ही दिया जा रहा है। My family drives me nuts, but I love them. So here, them is the pronoun and family is the antecedent. Second example, the sign was too far away for Henry to read it. Now, sign is the antecedent. This is the first noun because it is referring to this noun. It is the pronoun and it is referring to this noun. So, this noun is known as the antecedent. मज़ीद आसान अल्फाज में antecedent वो noun होता है जिसको वो स्पेसिफिक प्रोनाउन रिफर कर रहा होता है। एंटीसीडेंट वो नाउन होता है जिसको प्रोनाउन रिफर कर रहा होता है। यहाँ पर देम, इट और शी ये प्रोनाउंस हैं और फैमिली, साइन और सारा एंटीसीडेंट्स हैं। देम का एंटीसीडेंट फैमिली है, इट का एंटीसीडेंट साइन है और she का antecedent Sarah है. Sarah said she is almost finished with the application. In some cases, the antecedent doesn't need to be mentioned explicitly as long as the context is totally clear. It's usually clear who the pronouns I, me, and you refer to based on who is speaking. It's also possible to use a pronoun before you mention the antecedent, but try to avoid it in long or complex sentences because it can make the sentence hard to follow. I love them, but my family drives me nuts. So here you can see the antecedent is not antecedent anymore. Although अगर हम technically देखें तो ये antecedent के status में ही है क्योंकि them इसी को refer कर रहा है। अगर एंटीसीडेंट का वैसे लफ्जी मानी लेते हैं तो इसका मतलब है पहले आने वाला, लेकिन इस ग्रामर की सेंस में एंटीसीडेंट का मतलब है कि देम रिफर कर रहा है इस वाले नाउन को, तो ये नाउन जो है वो एंटीसीडेंट है किसका, देम का। आई होप दिस कॉन्सेप्ट इज क्लियर टू यू। So now we are going to move on forward with the types of pronouns. Personal pronouns. These might be the pronouns that you have been using for a very long time since your school days. Those associated with certain people, thing, or group, all except you, have distinct forms that indicate singular or plural number. Personal pronouns are always specific and are often used to replace a proper noun, someone's name, or a collective group of people or things. Personal pronouns have two main groups, one referring to the subject of the sentence and one to the object. अब यहाँ अगर मैं आप थोड़ा सा याद करवाने की कोशिश करूं. So if we are talking about, let me write it here. Please bear patiently if I will take a lot of time. I hope I will not take a lot of time while writing this. So while we are talking about the active voice, the most common sentence structure is subject, verb, and object. But let me tell you that subject almost always has a noun filling the slot. An object almost always has a noun filling this spot. Now this noun is the subject and this noun is the object. So that is what they are talking about here, that personal pronouns have two main groups here. One referring to the subject that I mentioned here and one referring to the object that I mentioned here. The first is used to replace the subject of the sentence. So in the first slot, that is the subject slot, it might be a person who is doing the action, who is performing the action, or an animal. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, and they. Notice that you is repeated as you can be singular, addressing one person or plural, addressing a group of people. Personal pronoun examples in the following sentences are in bold for easy identification. Jack and David are friends. They play basketball together. Now we are quite well aware of the rules of pluralization, that there is more than one person here. This is person number 1 and this is person number 2. So 1 plus 1, 2. That means that it is more than one. It acquires the plural. So that is why we will use they here. The second group of pronouns replaces the object of the sentence, me, you, him, her, it, us, you, and them. Now, if we consider the definition of an object, then I will not suggest that you consider it as a non-living thing. Consider it as an action advancing from one entity to the other. एक entity से दूसरी entity तक action जो है वो ट्रांसफर होना. सो इस एंटिटी से एक्शन ट्रांसफर हो रहा है इसलिए ये सब्जेक्ट है और इस एंटिटी की तरफ एक्शन जा रहा है इसलिए ये ऑब्जेक्ट है. मज़ीद इजी वर्ड्स में अगर मैं आपको बताऊं तो ये जो एक्शन से इफेक्ट हो रहा है वो ये वाली एंटिटी है ऑब्जेक्ट. एक्शन जो है वो इधर से आ रहा है और ऑब्जेक्ट की तरफ जा रहा है तो एक्शन डायरेक्टेड होता है ऑब्जेक्ट की तरफ. So this is the kind of understanding that you need to develop towards an object. So consider the sentence, we will be late if you don't hurry up. The second group of pronouns replaces the object of the sentence, me, you, him, her, it, us, you, them. Consider the sentence, we will be late if you don't hurry up. In the above example, we is the subject of the sentence, but you is the object. Now, if you pay attention to this sentence here, we will be late if you don't hurry up. Now, you can see that the action is transmitted from the subject to the object. So here, we will be late if you don't hurry up. Of course, this is a conditional sentence, but we will not go into the complexities of it. All I want you to understand is that in a sentence there are different slots, and those slots, the kind of order in which they are in, that is how we understand their category. So here we are going to term we as the subject and you as the object. Peter sang the song to me. Now here Peter is doing an action that is being transmitted to the other person. So here I will say Peter is the subject, sang the song. Now the song technically here is the object, but basically me is replacing of course the other person. So here the action is transmitted from one person to the other. Missing the train will cause us to be late. Now this is an action that is impacting the people who are talking about this. She packed them tightly in the suitcase. Now here suitcase is mentioned, so it is automatically understood that they are talking about the belongings that she is packing in the suitcase. Reflexive pronouns. Those preceded पहले आए. Those preceded by the adverb, adjective, pronoun or noun to which they refer, and ending in self or selves. Reflexive pronouns are used to refer back to the subject or clause of a sentence. The list of reflexive pronouns includes myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, yourselves, themselves. Now here you can see that you have already discussed these in the personal pronouns, my, your, him, and her. So you simply add self with these pronouns so that they become reflexive pronouns. Reflexive pronoun examples in the following sentences are in bold for easy identification. Count yourselves. Now here, in order to understand it in a better way, let's try to analyze these examples. Annie only had herself to blame. Now here, Annie is the noun and herself. So this is something that is referring, this pronoun is referring back to Annie. Annie only had herself to blame. Peter and Paul had baked themselves cakes. Now Peter and Paul, these are two subjects here or nouns, Peter 1 and Paul 2. So of course they are plural and we refer to them as them. So they did something that affected their own selves directly. So that is why we use themselves here. Demonstrative pronouns. Those used to point to something specific within a sentence. There are only four demonstrative pronouns: this, that, these, and those. But the usage can be a bit tricky at times. This and that are singular, whereas these and those are plural. As you may have noticed, there can be some crossover with indefinite pronouns when using this and that. So we are going to discuss indefinite pronouns further in this lecture, so you will understand what indefinite pronouns are. So let me explain demonstrative pronouns to you just to make it easier for you to understand. Now let's form two pairing. This and that, and with this we have these and and those. Now we can see here that this is singular and these is plural. That is singular and those is plural. So what is the difference between these two? The difference is that this and these are used to refer to something that is in close proximity. By close proximity I mean करीब की चीज को refer करने के लिए, something that is near. So this and these are used to refer to something that is quite near you. Let's look at this example. I prefer this. When I say I prefer this, it means that something that is close to me, something that is lying close to me, that to which I am referring, and it is singular. If I will say I prefer these, then again it means something that is lying nearby. If I say I prefer that, let's change this. I will use that in place of this. This की जगह मैं that use करती हूँ. So that means that I am referring to something that is far away from me, that is distant from me. जो चीज मुझसे दूर है लेकिन singular है. If I say I prefer those, it means again that something that is plural, some of the things that are plural but that are not nearby but at a distance from me. So let's look at this one. These are beautiful, but those belong to Danny. It means that they are talking about the two different nouns here. These is number one and those number two. So these are beautiful, but those belong to Danny. Did you see that? Did you see that? So something that happened that you saw, but something that is happening at a distance from you, or and it is a singular action. So I hope from here this is clear that this and that, these and those. This and these, this is singular, these is plural. Both of these are used to refer to something that is nearby, जो आपके कोई करीब में चीज होती है. That and those, singular and plural again, but they are used to refer to something that is distant from you. While it can be confusing, this, that, these, and those can sometimes be used as demonstrative adjectives. The difference between the two is that a demonstrative pronoun replaces the noun and a demonstrative adjective qualifies the noun. When it is mentioned here qualifies the noun, it means that it gives us more information about a noun. So I have always told you that always look at the placement in a sentence of a word. Noun से पहले आने वाला, a word that comes before a noun, is the one that is an adjective. A word that comes right at the beginning or the end of a sentence, and if it is giving us more information about a verb, that is an adverb. If a word comes right before an adverb, that is an adjective. So different functions are performed by the same words. Just pay attention to the kind of position they occupy in a sentence. So let's look at this example. I prefer this photo. It means that the photo is lying nearby the person who is talking about the photo. These flowers are beautiful, but those vases belong to Danny. See? These flowers are beautiful. So when I am talking about flowers, I'm referring to the flowers that are right close to me, that are nearby. But those vases, it means that vases are lying far away from me. Those vases belong to Danny. Did you see that rainbow? Now rainbow is at a distance. So that is why we use that here. It should be clear that this, that, these, and those in the example above are not pronouns because they are being used to qualify the noun but not replace it. Now here you can see that these are not pronouns. Why? Because you can see I prefer photo. Here it becomes an adjective. These flowers. Here again they become an adjective. Now a good trick for remembering the difference is that a demonstrative pronoun would still make sense if the word one or ones followed it in the sentence. So they are telling you about a kind of a test that you can put a sentence through just to analyze if it is an adjective or if it is a demonstrative pronoun. I prefer this one. These ones are beautiful. Did you see that one? Those ones belong to Danny. So this is a kind of a test that they have given you. You can make the sentences go through this test if you are not quite sure if it is a pronoun or an adjective. Those designating possession or ownership. So, possessive pronouns are those designating possession or ownership. सिंपल सी बात है, कोई चीज़ आपकी मिल्कियत को जाहिर करे और वो pronouns जो कि किसी चीज़ की ownership जाहिर करें possessive pronouns होते हैं. For example, examples include mine, its, hers, his, yours, ours, theirs, whose. Consider the example. This cat is mine. This cat is mine. Mine is indicating possession, that the cat belongs to me. Incidentally, this in the sentence is not a pronoun but demonstrative adjective as it qualifies the noun cat. Now let us again analyze this. Let's say हम इस this को यहाँ से काट देते हैं. Cat is mine. The sentence is complete. अब आप बिल्ली के बारे में बता रहे हैं, बिल्ली पास है, ठीक है? So you are giving us more information about a cat. Now what is a cat? It is a noun. So I told you that anything, any word that comes before a noun is an adjective. So here this becomes an adjective. Here this becomes an adjective. Now if I would have erased cat here, this is mine, then it would have become a demonstrative pronoun. I hope that you have got the idea now that after eliminating this noun, if I simply say this is mine, then this becomes pronoun. If I don't eliminate the cat here, then this becomes adjective because noun is already present here. So mine is indicating possession. मेरी है, ठीक है? किसी और की हो तो, सामने वाले की हो तो yours, सबकी मिल के हो तो ours, किसी और की हो तो theirs, पता नहीं हो किसकी है whose. So किसी लड़की की हो hers, लड़के की हो his. So mine is indicating possession, that the cat belongs to me. Incidentally, this in the sentence is not a pronoun but demonstrative adjective as it qualifies the noun cat. You will find that possessive pronouns often follow phrases that contain demonstrative adjectives. Possessive pronoun examples in the following sentences are in bold for easy identification. Are these bananas yours? Now here they have told you that possessive pronouns often follow phrases that contain demonstrative adjective. Now let's analyze the phrase here. Possessive adjective. So here these is a possessive, is a demonstrative adjective. So demonstrative adjective, why? Because this is preceding the noun here. Are these bananas yours? This money is ours. Now again, this is the demonstrative adjective here. So this money is ours. Is the fault theirs or yours? Relative pronouns. Those which refer to nouns mentioned previously, acting to introduce an adjective or relative clause. They will usually appear after a noun to help clarify the sentence or give extra information. Examples include who, which, that, whom, whose. Consider the following sentence. The man who stole the car went to jail. Now, in the extract that I read right now, let's analyze that. Those which refer to nouns mentioned previously. Now, in the example, the noun mentioned previously is the man. Acting to introduce an adjective clause or a relative clause. In this case, who stole the car is the relative clause or the adjective clause. They will usually appear after a noun to help clarify the sentence or give information. Now let's analyze the sentence without the relative clause. The man, let's cross out who stole the car. The man went to jail. So in this chunk that we have omitted, and the rest of the sentence gives us the information that the man went to jail. But it does not give us more information about the crime that the man committed, due to which he went to jail. So for that, the relative clause steps in. When the relative clause is here, it gives us more information about the crime that the man committed or the offense that the man made. So that is why he went to jail. Let me erase this for you. So the man who stole the car. Now, who stole the car is basically an adjective or a relative clause. Now, this adjective, this is the man who stole the car went to jail. Now, here who is the relative pronoun. And because it is introducing this part of the sentence, so this whole part is known as the relative clause. Now here this word is the relative pronoun. The relative pronoun who acts to refer back to the noun man. It acts to open a clause by identifying the man as not just any man but the one who stole the car. Relative pronoun examples in the following sentences are in bold for easy identification. So the way I explained it to you, that even if you cut out this whole clause, then the sentence that will be remaining will be the man went to jail. But in that case, we will not have enough information about the man. So who stole the car is a relative clause where a relative pronoun introduces a relative clause and it gives us more information about the man. Let's look at the other examples. The table which sits in the hallway is used for correspondence. So from here you can get the hint that even this relative clause can be separated with commas. Just to let you know, just to let the reader know that some extra information is being given here about the table or the noun that precedes. So this which here is the relative pronoun, because it is developing a connection first of all with the noun table, and also it is introducing a relative clause here. Which sits in the hallway is a relative clause. So even if we do not read this which sits in the hallway, the sentence will become the table is used for correspondence. But in this case, we will not know which table they are talking about. So that is why the relative clause here with a relative pronoun which sits in the hallway gives us more information about the table. The car that crashed into the wall was blue. The car that crashed into the wall. Now here that is in bold, that is the relative pronoun. This is the woman whose key you found. So here whose is the relative pronoun. Those pronouns which introduce a question are known as the interrogative pronouns. The examples include who, whom, whose, what, which. We can usually identify an interrogative pronoun by the fact that they often appear at the beginning of a question. Interrogative pronoun examples in the following sentences are in bold for easy identification. Who will come to the party? Now here who is being asked कौन आएगा पार्टी पर तो यहाँ पूछा जा रहा है कि कौन आएगा आइडेंटिफिकेशन विच डू यू प्रेफर उर्दू में बनेगा कौन सा व्हाट डू यू नीड क्या चाहिए आपको या आपको क्या चाहिए whose clothes are on the floor किसके कपड़े किसके whose is in possession whom did you tell किसको बताया information एक से दूसरे तक होना so who which what whose and whom are interrogative pronouns here whom and who are often confused and even native speakers will use them incorrectly who will replace the subject of a sentence whereas whom will replace the direct or indirect object a good tip for deciding which to use is that you can replace who in the sentence with a personal pronoun and it will make sense. Who will come to the party? I will come to the party. So here they are basically again giving you a sort of a tip or a test that you can make a question go through the kind of answer that the question will give it will make you understand if it is substituting the subject of it or if it is substituting the object who will come to the party I will come to the party the same system would not work for whom did you tell I did you tell अब यही चीज जो है होम डिड यू टेल अब होम जो है ना वो ऑब्जेक्ट के लिए है अगर यहाँ पर हम सब्जेक्ट वाला आई लगा देंगे तो ग्रामेटिकली इनकरेक्ट हो जाएगा तो ये पता करने के लिए कि कहाँ पर हु लगाना है कहाँ पर होम लगाना है यू कैन मेक द सेंटेंसेस गो थ्रू दिस सिंपल टेस्ट वहां पर आई की सब्स्टिट्यूशन से ही आपको पता चल जाएगा कि यहाँ करेक्ट सब्स्टिट्यूट आपने हु या होम का लगाया है या नहीं Reciprocal pronouns. Those expressing mutual actions or relationship that is one another. There are just two reciprocal pronouns in English, one another and each other. They are mainly used to stop unnecessary repetition in a sentence but also to reinforce the idea that collective and reciprocal actions are happening to more than one person or thing. John and Mary gave each other gifts. Using each other allows us the sentence to be more efficient than John gave Mary a gift and Mary gave a gift to John. Now here John gave Mary a gift and Mary gave a gift to John. Now this sounds like a lot of repetition and even while saying it is giving me a tongue twister. So that means that using one another or each other saves us from the hassle of repeating the same thing again and again. The countries worked with one another on national security. In this example, one another works to suggest that the action of working reciprocated back and forth by more than one country. So reciprocal basically means कि एक दूसरे में जो है वो एक से दूसरे और दूसरे से पहले में आपस में जो है वो चीज मुंतकिल होते रहना. So reciprocal pronoun examples in the following sentences are in bold for easy identification. The boxes punched each other, यानी कि ये equal action है और equal action दोनों को ही affect कर रहा है. That is why we have used each other here. The couple love one another deeply. So again, this thing is affecting both the people in a couple. So that is why we use one another here. Intensive pronoun, those ending in self or selves and that serve to emphasize their antecedents. These are most identical to reflexive pronouns, but rather than just referring back to the subject of the sentence, they work to reinforce the action. तो थोड़ी देर पहले we discussed the reflexive pronouns, जहाँ पर हमने डिस्कस किया कि पर्सनल प्रोनाउंस के अंदर हम अगर सेल्फ ऐड कर देंगे तो वो रिफ्लेक्सिव प्रोनाउंस बन जाएंगे, लेकिन उसके अंदर कंफ्यूजन यूज करने का है. तो कंफ्यूजन को दूर कैसे करना है कि जहां पर आप देखें कि एक्शन पर एम्फसाइज किया जा रहा है, एम्फोसिस के लिए हम इंटेंसिव प्रोनाउन यूज करते हैं. In many cases, the sentence would still make sense without the intensive pronoun. So in that case, there is a simple test that you can remove this kind of pronoun from the sentence just to analyze if it is an intensive pronoun or a reflexive pronoun. I will do it myself. Now, even if you remove myself from this sentence, I will do it will suffice. इसके अंदर से सेंटेंस का सेंस कंप्लीट होता है. माई सेल्फ अगर आप रिमूव कर दें तो फिर भी कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. We made this by ourselves. Now here again, if even if you remove ourselves from this sentence, we made this by would suffice. But then myself and ourselves here basically are used to emphasize the action. A nation speaks for itself through elections. Notice how the intensive pronoun is working to emphasize the statement. The sentence would still technically be correct without the intensive pronoun, but it adds some important context to its meaning. So, like I said, that you can make the sentence pass through this test just to analyze if it is an intensive pronoun or a reflexive pronoun by simply removing myself, ourselves, or itself from the sentence just to see. Indefinite pronouns are those referring to one or more unspecified objects, beings, or places such as someone, anybody, nothing. Notice in the examples below that there is no set position for where an indefinite pronoun will appear in a sentence. Often it happens that you are not sure about the doer of the action, but the action has happened. Often you are not sure about the kind of action that has taken place. So sometimes you are not sure about the place where the action has taken place. So just to make the sentence structure complete, you use the indefinite pronouns. Indefinite pronoun examples are anyone, कोई भी, somebody, कोई तो, whichever, कुछ भी, whoever, कोई भी, other, कोई और, something, कुछ भी, nobody, कोई नहीं. Indefinite pronoun examples in the following sentences are in bold for easy identification. Would anyone like a coffee? Now, indefinite pronouns generally are used to ask a question just generally. They are not exactly directed towards someone. Now, such question, would anyone like a coffee? Now, imagine you are sitting in a group of friends and you are going to make coffee. So you are not asking your best friend out of your friends, you are asking this question generally. So if anybody would want coffee, so that person would tell you that that person wants coffee. Would anyone like a coffee? Let's say your friend's name is James and the other friend's name is Mark. So James would say, yes, I would like to have some. Thank you. Take whatever you like. Jamie took one cookie and Ben took the other. So imagine you are offering just different cookies to your friends and you are telling them take whatever you like. So the cookies are quite different. So Jamie took, let's imagine, a chocolate cookie and Ben took the oatmeal cookie. Whoever owns this is in big trouble. Koi bhi. Now you don't know who owns the property, but you know that obviously it is in ownership of someone, but you are not sure about the owner. So you are talking generally या हवा में बात कर रहे हैं. So you will say whoever owns this is in big trouble. I want someone to move this now. अब अगर आप किसी को कहें कि ये इसको यहाँ से हटा दो, तो आप उसको पुकारेंगे. You will address that person to move something from somewhere. But if you are not sure who to address, so you will say, I want someone to move this now. Indefinite pronouns can also be used to create sentences that are almost abstract. Examples could include this, all, such, and something. All was not lost. Such is life. Something tells me this won't end well. Now, in these sentences, you can see for yourself that something abstract is being said here. But if philosophical sentences हैं, they are not directed towards someone. They are not directed specifically towards something. They do not have a proper topic here, but they have a philosophy here. So, in such cases, indefinite pronouns do all the task for you. So after discussing the types of pronouns, we are going to discuss some of the pronoun rules here. There are a few important rules for using pronouns. As you read through these rules, soon you'll see that pronouns are easy to work with. Number one, subject pronouns may be used to begin sentences. So if you remember, we discussed in the initial slide that there is a subject pronoun and there is an object pronoun where I explained the sentence structure to you, subject, verb, and object. So here they are telling you that subject pronouns may be used to begin sentences. For example, we did a great job. Subject pronouns may also be used to rename the subject. For example, it was she who decided we should go to Hawaii. So here, let's imagine that someone asked the question, who decided that we should go to Hawaii? So in answer to that question, we have the statement, it was she who decided we should go to Hawaii. Indefinite pronouns don't have antecedents. Indefinite pronouns are anyone, somebody, no one. So they do not have antecedents. यानी कि उनसे पहले कोई reference के लिए noun मौजूद नहीं होता. क्यों नहीं होता? Of course, they are referring to someone or something that is unknown. They are capable of standing on their own. For example, no one likes the sound of fingernails on a chalkboard. अब यहाँ पर आप कह रहे हैं किसी को भी नहीं पसंद. So you are not talking about someone in general. If you have been, then you would have mentioned it here. Let's say your friend's name is Mark. So you are going to say Mark does not like the sound of fingernails on a chalkboard. But again, you are generalizing the statement. You are giving a general statement. So in case of the general statement, indefinite pronouns work. Here from the example it is clear, no one likes the sound of fingernails on a chalkboard. Object pronouns are used as direct objects, indirect objects, and objects of prepositions. These include you, me, him, her, us, them, and it. For example, David talked to her about the mistake. Possessive pronouns show ownership, they do not need apostrophes. For example, the cat washed its tail. So you can simply write here its without an apostrophe. So towards the end of our class, let's discuss the two very important pronouns here, their and it, because they are going to be very directly relevant to your units 98 to 103. The words it and their can also be used like pronouns when the rules of grammar require a subject, but no noun is actually being referred to. Both are usually used at the beginning of a sentence or clause, as for example, it was almost noon. Now, here you can see for yourself that this sentence is referring to the time. Of course, time cannot be explained in a way as if it is doing an action. So, to explain something about time, we need an it here. We need a pronoun here just to fill the space of the subject here. There is some cake left. So, you are just giving the information here. So, you are giving the information about the cake. If a person was eating from a plate and if they would have left the cake in the plate, then you would have simply said that John left some cake in the plate. But here you are simply talking about the cake, that there is a portion of the cake left here. Now, like I discussed in the previous slides, that the normal structure of a sentence, the most common structure of a sentence is subject, verb, and object. But this is a complex case if we are talking with reference to this. Both these examples are the complex cases. So, in these examples, we can see that it and there basically are just fulfilling the function of a subject. They are not actually performing the action. They are simply filling in the space. So, they are sometimes referred to as expletives. Expletive is a word or phrase used to fill out a sentence or a line of verse without adding to the sense. It is regarded as a placeholder. So, like I told you, that the most common sentence structure is subject, verb, and object. So, in both these examples are complex cases, and here the first example is talking about referring to the time basically, and the second example is referring to the cake that is left in a plate. So, as nobody is doing the action and the action is not referring to something, we are just describing or explaining the state of things. So, in order to explain the state of things, we use these expletives, it and there. They simply are the placeholders, they simply fill in the spot of a subject, but they are not performing any kind of action and they are not adding to any kind of sense of the sentence. So I have given links of the sources. You can search for these sources over the internet and find out more information if you want to regarding this lecture or regarding the pronouns. So that's it for today's lecture. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you will listen to it carefully and properly so that you can be well prepared for the units ahead. The lecture has formally ended. Allah Hafiz.